Hello, I'm Chai Hofelenia. Welcome to Rappler Talk Investigative. Today we'll be chatting with attorney Jude Sabio. He's the lawyer of Edgar Matobato, the self-proclaimed hitman of the Davao Death Squad. Recently, attorney Sabio said he would be filing a case against President Rodrigo Duterte before the International Criminal Court. We will be chatting about prospects of that case and his client, Mr. Matobato. Join us in our conversation and send us your questions if you have any. Jude, welcome to Rappler.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming over.
Yes.
I'd like to start with yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you agreed to be the lawyer of Mr. Matobato.
Yeah. I was in Cagayan de Oro City, and after having angioplasty on my coronary arteries in June 2016, I was on medical leave, and I saw the testimony of Matobato on YouTube, and I found myself immediately believing in his testimony, and especially in his credibility. I do not know what happened to me, but I wrote articles which I caused to be published in the Mindanao Gold Star Daily in Cagayan de Oro City.
Yes, I read that.
I wrote about more than 5 or even 10 articles, and one of my articles entitled Matobato Testimony Now was luckily published in the September 29 issue of Philippine Daily Inquirer. And it was this article that was read by a certain Jesuit priest, who made a background check on me through another Jesuit priest, who luckily came to know me because he was he gave me a scholarship in the Ateneo when I studied in college. And so he contacted me through Facebook, and then he told me that Matobato still had no lawyer, and I said I might as well defend him because I already defended him in public in my writings. And so he told me if I had the money to buy a ticket. I said I'm financially broke, so he said he would send me a one-way ticket to Manila, and that he said he sent me a ticket. And so on October 5, I went to Manila, and on October 6, I personally met Edgar Matobato.
That was the first time you met him.
Yes, and the rest is history. I defended him in his case in Davao City. I facilitated his bail, and then I defended his case in Digos, and now I'm defending his case also in Panabo City.
So there are two cases that you are handling. One, am I correct? Please correct me if I'm wrong. One case is the frustrated murder case involving this DAR adjudicator.
Yes.
Abeto Salcedo. So this was in 2014.
Yes.
And
No,
then
in 2013.
And then there is another case which involves illegal possession of firearms.
Yes.
Is that you also? You're handling?
Yes, I
the
am also
case?
handling it. It's a case for carrying a firearm outside of residence without the necessary permit to carry. And the other case is the one pending in the court in Panabo City involving the kidnapping of the person named Sally Macdum. The incident was one of those cases testified upon by Edgar Matobato in his Senate testimony.
Yes. He has been identified as the man behind an attempted homicide case. Why defend him? And if he has confessed to being a member of the Davao Death Squad, he's killed a lot of people, why lawyer for him?
You know, defending Matobato is not only defending his person or his innocence or guilt. It's more about the truth that he represents. It's about the truth about the Davao Death Squad. This does not involve him personally. And I think that is more important than defending him as a person. Because we will never know the truth about the Davao Death Squad and the involvement of President Rodrigo Duterte unless we have Matobato as a witness. We should even be grateful that Matobato came out to testify, because the Davao Death Squad has just remained to be a subject of urban legend. The CHR conducted an investigation way back in 2009, if I'm not mistaken. The Ombudsman conducted, and they did not have any evidence to implicate the President in the Davao Death Squad. Now, with the testimony of Edgar Matobato and later on the corroboration of Arthur Las Cañas, we now have a clear picture of the Davao Death Squad.
How did he react when Arthur Las Cañas came out?
Of course, I was not able to see him after Matobato came out, But in my interview with the ABS-CBN, I voiced out the happiness, with which I welcome the coming out of Las Cañas. Why should I be happy? Because Las Cañas vindicated my belief in Matobato. Las Cañas vindicated the truthfulness of the testimony of Edgar Matobato.
But there are some details in Las Cañas' testimony and the testimony of Edgar Matobato that don't quite jive.
Yes, that is understandable because they are not coached as witnesses. So minor inconsistencies which are harmless can even bolster their credibility. What is important is the material facts about the incidents testified upon by them are true, are corroborated by each one of them. Now, if there is a discrepancy, I think that can be explained by the long lapse of time, which sometimes fails the memory of any human being. No? Remember that the incidents being testified by them occurred many years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and that the memory of a person is very treacherous in that kind of situation. Well, a person or a witness cannot be expected to recall every detail of the incidents, especially if the incidents are too numerous, so many, that it would be very difficult to invent.
If there were three things that we had to remember insofar as the testimonies of these two men are concerned, what do you think are the most important?
The most important, I think, is the fact of the existence of the Davao Death Squad and the involvement of President Rodrigo Duterte as the mastermind and leader of the Davao Death Squad. And another important thing is the criminal activities done by the Davao Death Squad as an organizational policy implemented by then Mayor Rodrigo Duterte to eliminate crime or as a means of crime control by killing suspected criminals. I think that is the most important because that will establish a clear system or plan or policy or strategy.
You're really zeroing in on the accountability of the president.
Yes, of course, because Las Cañas and Matobato clearly identify the president as being behind the Davao Death Squad. I think the president can never deny anymore the existence of the Davao Death Squad and the criminal activities undertaken by him under the Davao Death Squad. It will be foolish and I think even laughable if the president will still deny his involvement, his direct involvement in the Davao Death Squad. We now have clear evidence, proof beyond reasonable doubt, that President Duterte was involved in the Davao Death Squad when he was still mayor. And my theory is that in the case to be filed with the ICC, it will be easy, Chai, to prove the system and the strategy and the best practice because we now have evidence of the Davao Death Squad.
Will the testimonies of these two men stand?
Yes, the testimony will prove that the system of eliminating criminals in order to control crime in Davao City was existent at the time and based on the pronouncements of the president before he became president and during the campaign, clearly show a mental state that he intended to continue the system, the strategy, the best practice of killing criminals. He once boasted to then President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo that his best practice in controlling crime in Davao is to kill criminals, making it his secret in making Davao City the 9th safest city in the world. Now, based on his pronouncements, he intended to continue the policy. And that policy is being continued right now in the extrajudicial killings, which he caused to happen after he became president on June 30, 2016.
Isn't there a jump there? Because his accountability as mayor is different from the EJK's
Now,
as president.
My professional view is that if we did not have Matobato and Las Cañas, it would be very difficult to prove the pattern, the policy of exterminating or erasing criminals. But since we have now Matobato and Las Cañas, it is now easy to prove the system. Now, if you were the president, you would not discard a system that is of value to you. based on your experience in Davao, you would even adopt it as a model, no, as a template. Instead of discarding it, you even have to improve it. No? That is my view. There was merely a continuation of that strategy, of that system as a crime control of killing criminals. And he continued that strategy. His pronouncements before he became president show his intentional policy to continue it. His statements after he became president also show, no, that he incited the police and civilians to violence, to mass murder. And it also shows, no, that he encourages.
So you're taking the president's past pronouncements against
Yes.
him.
The pronouncements of the president are recorded. We have transcripts in Malacanang. We have recordings of his statements. And those statements prove a mental state that he wanted to continue. And the continuation of that system of killing criminals was made by him in order to achieve his campaign promise to eradicate the drug problem.
Aren't you afraid for your life or for yourself if you go against Malacanang and no less than the president? Have there been any threats recently?
You know, Chai, I've been handling cases. I'm basically a litigator, a law practitioner, and I see this case as just one of those cases I'm handling. I'm not affected by the fact that the president is being involved. What I'm focused is on the merits of the case, whether or not there is a crime, the evidence involved, and whether or not it's the president who is involved. It's up to the International Criminal Court to judge him. I'm not the judge. I'll just present the case before the International Criminal Court.
Critics also say that how could you do this on your own? How can you go to the Netherlands? Who's financing you?
That's correct.
Is there a political group that's behind all this?
That's correct. I cannot do this on my own. I have no money. I cannot go to I cannot even buy a plane ticket for me to go to the Netherlands. But believe me, many people believe in Matobato, and many people believe that the president is guilty of crimes against humanity. And many people are contributing and helping in this cause. In fact, many people are now contributing for my plane ticket to the Netherlands. Many people are telling me that they will go to The Hague and show their support to me. One is even offering his house in Netherlands with matching transportation or vehicle or car. And I appreciate the concern of many individuals, because President Duterte has no monopoly of support. Even if he's too popular, he's so popular, many people still don't support him. And whether or not it's 100 or 1,000 who don't support him, it doesn't matter. What is important is they believe that he's involved in the Davao Death Squad and in the extrajudicial killings happening in the country after June 30.
Mag-shift tayo dun sa case about that you're filing sa ICC. You previously mentioned that this is a crime, you're filing a case on crimes against humanity. Ano ba yung sakop nung case na to? What does it mean when you say crimes against humanity?
The Rome Statute under Article 7 defines crime against humanity as an act, no, that is carried out as part of a systematic or widespread attack against a civilian population with knowledge of the attack. Now, Article 7 enumerates certain acts that would constitute crime against humanity, and one of those acts is murder.
Okay.
Now, in this case, extrajudicial executions, my theory, Chai, is that President Duterte, through his Davao Death Squad, when he was still mayor, already committed crimes against humanity in the more than 1,000 extrajudicial executions made in Davao City. And when he became president, based on his pronouncements, he merely continued the system of eradicating criminals as a strategy of crime control. In other words, he merely continued the commission of crimes against humanity, no, through the extrajudicial executions that he caused to happen after June 30, 2016. Now, the case to be filed with the ICC will embrace or cover only crimes against humanity committed after he became president.
After he became president?
Yes.
Okay.
Those acts committed, those extrajudicial executions that happened in Davao City under the Davao Death Squad will no longer be covered in the case to be filed with the ICC. Why? Because
see. Okay.
those cases were committed prior to July 2, 2002, or the time when the Rome Statute entered into force. Okay. Now, the Philippines became a party to the roads committed by President Duterte when he was still mayor prior to 2011
are not covered.
are not covered by this case. Cases after 2011 and up to June 30, 2016 are now the subject of a complaint in the Ombudsman. Remember, Edgar Matobato through me filed a complaint on December 9, 2016 that will cover the cases after August 2011 but prior to June 30, 2016. The case intended to be filed with the ICC will cover only cases after June 30, 2016. This involves extrajudicial executions in the war on drugs.
Pero if I recall correctly, one qualifier there also dun sa crimes against humanity is that there has to be a targeted population.
Yes.
Parang it's large-scale attack against a specific population.
Yeah, the attack should be against a civilian population. It should be systematic or widespread. And then the attack is defined to be a course of conduct involving multiple commissions of murder. Multiple commissions of murder. Now, in this case, there is a multiple commission of murders. As reported by the Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, cases of deaths, multiple deaths, were documented by these international human rights groups. Now, in the case of involving 33 deaths, we don't have to prove, Jai, we don't have to prove all 7,000 deaths. We don't have to prove all 7,000. We just have to prove at least one death, or even 2, 3, 4, 5, or even 50 deaths. Because what is important is that there is a systematic or widespread attack.
So if they say,
Now,
no, only 2,000 not 7,000.
it doesn't matter. It is not essential to the elements of the crime that we should prove 7,000 deaths, as stated in the Human Rights Watch and the Amnesty International, which organizations both state that more than 7,000 deaths have occurred since the time President Rodrigo Duterte came into office. And the period being referred to by the Philippine National's Office of Police Statistics is from July 1, 2016 up to January 21, 2017 for a total of 7,000 plus deaths. Now, this is a grim statistics, no? But what is important is that we are able to prove at least one or more deaths.
Okay.
And the most important thing is that we are able to prove the systematic or widespread attack.
So
Now,
critical in your case, that witnesses come
Yes.
forward.
First, Matobato and Las Cañas will be very vital in proving the system, the best practice being boasted upon by President Rodrigo Duterte. Now, because we now have proof of the Davao Death Squad, no, we know the system in Davao in exterminating criminals as a method of crime control. And if you go by my theory, that there was merely a continuation of that system, it's now easy to prove the extrajudicial executions after June 30, 2016. Why? Because the same system that was applied in Davao is the very same system that is being applied now.
Just to
on
push
the
it,
national-
just to push it a
Yeah.
little more. Sure, there is a Davao Death Squad, and
Yeah.
Duterte as mayor is behind that, as alleged in the testimonies and the affidavits. But as president, and the EJ case that have happened from July up to the present, there's no clear connection between the EJ case and Duterte.
Remember that what I said, we have proof about his public statements which prove a mental state. Remember, he promised in his campaign that he will kill 100,000 drug pushers and he will throw the bodies into the Manila Bay for the fish to grow fat. No? And then he said that he will kill drug pushers and addicts, even if they amount to about 3 million. Now, remember, this kind of president always boasts about his threat of killing criminals. And that is because he has done it before in Davao, as clearly testified upon by Las Cañas and Matobato.
Okay.
Now, okay.
Could you walk us through the process? Kasi, okay, I think process-wise, any individual or group can initiate. You can send information about alleged crimes, and then you send it to the office of the prosecutor. And then what happens dun sa office of the prosecutor?
Now, in the office of the prosecutor, a preliminary examination will be conducted, meaning that the prosecutor will determine if the requirements of jurisdiction and admissibility are complied with.
Ano ibig sabihin nun when you say covered within the jurisdiction of the ICC?
Three forms of jurisdiction are required. Number one is subject matter, number two is temporal, and number three is personal or territorial jurisdiction. Subject matter means that the offense being charged is within the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. Temporal means that the offenses being charged are filed, are made after the Rome Statute took force, entered into force, or after the country became a state party to the Rome Statute. And territorial or personal means that the person being charged is a national of the country, which is a state party.
So it's easy to get past that
easy,
requirement?
I think. Yeah, it's easy to get that requirement. Now, we also, preliminary examination will also deal with admissibility, meaning that we have to comply with the principle of complementarity, gravity, and interest of justice. Now, insofar as complementarity is concerned, I will take note about contrary views, that there should be an exhaustion of remedies.
Yes.
The Rome Statute does not mention anything about exhaustion of remedies. It merely says principle of complementarity. Remember that the Rome Statute is a statute entered into by states. So it is the Philippine state that is a party to the Rome Statute. And it is the state party that is obliged to be willing to investigate.
In this case, chances are
Yes.
the state will not be willing.
The Rome Statute does not require the state to exhaust remedies. That is different from saying that the state should be willing. Now, in our case, that cannot be possible because the president encourages, or in fact incites the police and vigilante groups to commit mass murder. And we cannot expect him to investigate himself.
So you don't see the need to first go to a regional trial court, go through trial, and then exhaust all means before elevating it to the ICC?
They are confusing exhaustion of remedies with complementarity, because exhaustion of remedies is a procedural rule in domestic law, wherein litigants have to go through administrative process before going to court. That is not a requirement in the Rome Statute. Because if the state is unwilling, as in this case, any individual can go to the International Criminal Court without going to the process of investigation in the Philippines. Because it is not required anymore. What is required is complementarity. Now, the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, under the Rome Statute, states have agreed to end impunity by providing effective remedy to bring to justice those responsible for extrajudicial executions.
But
now, if they don't do that, then anybody can go to the international, and the International Criminal Court can intervene in
But
cases.
the office of the prosecutor has to go through several processes. First, it has to begin a preliminary examination,
Yes.
and then after preliminary examination, then it goes into a full probe. And then
Yeah.
after the full probe, mahaba siguro yung probe na yun, and
Yes.
it can take forever.
No, I don't think that will take forever because unlike the courts here in the country, the prosecutor and the court are not bound by strict rules of procedure. In fact, proceedings by way of video recording and audio recording can be done before the ICC.
So you can take testimonies of
Yes.
witnesses, i-video nyo lang sila, and then
Yes,
ipapadala sa
under
ICC.
certain conditions. It can even be shown by teleconference. And the ICC is not bound by the testimonies of witnesses and parties. It can seek information from UN offices, from international human rights groups, and even states parties which may have information on. Unlike in the courts in the Philippines, when where the court rely only on witness testimony, and the testimony should even be inside the court in the presence of the parties.
We got to speak to a former ICC prosecution and investigations coordinator. And then sabi niya, a major challenge daw in cases like this would be, and I quote, obtaining evidence linking specific actors to crimes beyond reasonable doubt. So, yung beyond reasonable doubt is a challenge. How do you hope to surmount this challenge?
As I said earlier, the testimony of Las Cañas and Matobato and the other witnesses will be coming out soon, as announced by Senator Trillanes, constitute proof beyond reasonable doubt of the system of killings in Davao and in the extrajudicial killings happening right now in the war on drugs. As I said, without those testimonies, it will be impossible to prove the guilt of President Duterte and his minions in government. Now, we have also to take note that the deliberate failure to act or to investigate or to stop the killings with a conscious effort to encourage or to incite the attack on the civilian population is part of the policy or the organizational policy to commit such attack. President Duterte will be held liable under the principle of command responsibility, even if there is no proof that he killed one or more persons in the war on drugs.
But what if the Philippines decides to withdraw from the ICC? And Duterte has already mentioned that.
I think that will be impossible because just like in the case of South Africa, I think there should be consultation with the Congress in case withdrawal is considered as an option.
But if we do withdraw, hypothetically, anong impact nun on the case that you will be filing?
Withdrawal will take effect only after 1 year.
Okay.
So within that period of 1 year, the proceedings can still be obtained or conducted. And the ICC can in fact fast track the proceedings within 1 year prior to the taking effect of the withdrawal. But I think it's a diplomatic disaster if the Philippines will do that. Because it will not appear good to the international community that we out because of just the whim of the president, we would withdraw. It's like saying that you will kill the judge if you have a pending case in court.
So you're saying that if, kunyari, the government, with the support of Congress, agrees to withdraw from the ICC ngayon, 2017, the withdrawal will take effect 2018 pa. So if you file the case this month, that can proceed up to next year.
Yes, under the Rome Statute, the government will have to make a proper notification with the Secretary General of the United Nations. And the taking effect, the withdrawal will take effect 1 year after that formal notification. So within that 1 year, the case can still proceed. But in the meantime, the process of withdrawal will take a lot of time because Congress will have to be consulted, especially the Senate, because the Senate ratified that Rome Statute. It's not easy to withdraw from a treaty, just like in this case. And that is proven by the case of South Africa. When South Africa announced a withdrawal, the Supreme Court of South Africa declared the withdrawal to be unconstitutional and invalid.
So we can do the same here.
Yes, we can do the same. It can be
if
challenged in the Supreme Court, the withdrawal, especially if there is no consultation with Congress.
One difficulty with the ICC is that it's neither an enforcement body, it doesn't have police authority even. So how can it credibly enforce its decisions?
The International Criminal Court can seek the help of the international police. Of course, as a matter of courtesy, it will seek the uh, help of the state party concerned to cause the arrest and surrender of the person being charged, in this case, President Rodrigo Duterte. Now, in case the state party will insist not to surrender or to arrest, then the ICC can refer the matter to the Assembly of States Parties, and the Assembly of States Parties can act on the matter by putting pressure on the government to surrender the person being charged.
But then, if you look at two high-profile cases, di ba, si Omar al-Bashir and Joseph Kony of Sudan and Uganda, both of them were convicted, but wala. They're either they haven't been caught or no imprisonment.
Yeah, in the case
No
of
sanctions.
the president of Sudan, I think it's Omar al-Bashir.
Yes.
The South African government was embroiled in controversy because when the president convicted Bashir went to South Africa for an international gathering, South Africa was supposed to arrest and surrender him. No. But South Africa is not the country of Omar al-Bashir. Now, in the case of
Yes.
President Duterte, he is a national of the Philippines. And I think will be under the utmost pressure, under a severe pressure from the International Criminal Court to arrest and detain him because we have a treaty obligation. So I remember our obligation in the Rome International Criminal Court is founded on a treaty obligation. We cannot afford to be a pariah among the states, no, parties to the Rome Statute.
Yeah.
The government must have to implement the warrant of arrest, which may be issued by the International Criminal, and the president and even the officials of government can be sued before the Supreme Court, just like what the South Africans did when they questioned the failure of the government to arrest Omar al-Bashir. And I think that could be a legal case, could be filed against the Supreme Court to enforce the warrant of arrest against President Duterte if and when such warrant of arrest will be issued by the International Criminal Court.
That's of course assuming that the Supreme Court will remain fair and
Well, I think the Supreme Court will bow down to the Rome Statute
okay.
because it is binding under the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties. It is binding on the Philippines. It is part of the law of the land under the Constitution, and the Supreme Court will have to stand by that agreement, binding agreement.
There's a question here from social media. This is from Noel Tangbaon. He says, Attorney Sabio, what I understand is that crimes against humanity is a crime committed against a particular tribe, religious group, or ethnic group. Do you think the criminals belong to these? Take note that the quickest ICC decision was 4 years. 4 years.
Under the elements of crime set out by the Assembly of States Parties, what is required is that the attack should be on a civilian population. It does not require that the attack should be against a national, religious, ethnic, or any other group of similar nature. Now, if the attack is against a national, religious, ethnic, or any other similar group, then it is not crime against humanity. It is genocide, which is a separate offense defined under a separate article under the Rome Statute. We are not filing a case for genocide. We are simply filing a case against crimes against humanity. No. It is sufficient that there is established a systematic or widespread attack against a civilian population. And in this case, mostly against the poor, the impoverished communities in urban centers.
So we're looking at least 4 years, 5 years, or even more for this case? Are you hopeful, optimistic?
I'm used to cases, protracted cases, Chaido, because that is really the nature of a legal process. It will be long and tedious because it doesn't mean that when you file a case, you are the only one to be heard by the court. No, there is also another party. And the lawyers of President Duterte, if and when that time will come, will also present strong defense. And that is normal, that is natural. I will respect the opinion of the lawyer who will represent Rodrigo, the president, but it doesn't mean that we will have a losing case. No. Our side will also defend the position that we have proof that will prove that we have evidence. that will prove beyond reasonable doubt, and we are confident about the evidence that we have.
If you will be up against the president, you'd expect that he would have very influential and powerful lawyers, and you're by yourself.
Um, I don't see a case by the the lawyer who is defending someone. I look at the case from the viewpoint of evidence and the law. Even if you have the best lawyer in the world, if your case is weak, you will lose a case in court. Now, even if you're the president, if there is strong evidence against you that could prove your guilt beyond reasonable doubt, then you will have to be convicted for crimes against humanity. It doesn't matter whether you're a president or not. And I'm not affected by the fact that the person involved in this case is the president. It's only incidental. I just view this case as one of the ordinary cases being handled by me in court. And it doesn't affect my mind that this involves the president. I'm looking at the evidence, I'm looking at the law, and from my point of view, the case I think is strong against the
So you're
president.
putting on the hat as a litigator.
Pardon?
Litigator hat.
This has been my life since I graduated from law. I have never been working seriously in government. I have never been in the business sector or corporate. This is my life. I work in the courts.
But what if things don't fly in the ICC? What's your next step? What will you do?
I'm not thinking about the possibility that this will not fly with the International Criminal Court, but I think that will still be a long process. There is still a case pending in the Ombudsman, and the Ombudsman can still find probable cause against the President, and the Ombudsman can still refer the matter to the Congress for impeachment, because under the law, an impeachable official can still be removed, can still be investigated, and if probable cause will be found, the finding of probable cause can be referred to Congress for a possible impeachment, because an impeachable official cannot be removed by the Ombudsman. It is only through impeachment.
Yes.
So it will have to be referred to the House. And I am confident that the case in the Ombudsman will prosper, because we now have Las Cañas, we now have Matobato, and more other witnesses will come out. As
More
announced
witnesses will come out.
Yes, as announced by Senator Trillanes in media. He already
Yes.
announced it. I think there will be witnesses who are like Las Cañas, who are police officers, and some other witnesses who are lower than or of the same status as Matobato,
Belonging to the
the
Davao
Davao
Death
Death
Squad.
Squad. More witnesses will come out, and I don't think the President will be able to deny everything. In the face of all these testimonies, it will be impossible.
So hindi pa pala tapos to.
Not yet, because these witnesses will come out, Chai. And when these witnesses will come out, it will be President Duterte, if he denies it, will be the laughing stock of the world. He will be the laughing stock, because it is almost unthinkable for him to deny his involvement when more than 5 persons or 6 or 7 persons will testify against him. He will be faced by an array of witnesses who have personal knowledge of his involvement in the Davao Death. I don't think he will be able to deny it.
Okay, maybe some final thoughts. Why should people care about this case? What's at stake anyway?
For me, from the viewpoint of litigation, what is at stake here is truth and justice, because now we already have evidence about the Davao Death Squad and the involvement of the President. Whether or not he's popular, whether or not he's the President, it doesn't matter. What is important is there should be justice. No? The truth must come out about the killings. 1 or 2 persons, is bad enough. How much more with 1,000 persons killed in Davao, and many more thousands killed in the war on drugs? We cannot even tolerate 1 person being killed. How much more thousands of them being killed way back in Davao and now in the national level? I mean, something must be done. I think it's high time. I think for the legislators, the senators, and the congressmen, I think they should wake up. and realize that we cannot be the object of criticism in the international scene, and we are not doing anything in the domestic front. I mean, it's shameful.
Okay, thank you very much for speaking to us. We've been listening to Attorney Jude Sabio. He's the lawyer of Edgar Matobato, and he's bringing a case to the ICC within the month. Is that correct? You're still on target?
Yeah, middle of April.
Okay, so it's now April, no longer March. Thank you very much for joining us, and if you have other questions, just tweet them to us, and we'll send them to Attorney Sabio. Thank you, and good day.